By the military-industrial complex.
I'm just a patsy.
I have a dream.
I said this once or twice, but it bears repeating. If you like your current insurance, you will keep your current insurance.
You think about the Army and the Navy and the missions they run to protect the world, they run on SAP.
Well, you have done a really spectacular job. I guess pretty much everybody at this table is your customer, so that's not so bad.
Exactly.
I want to congratulate
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
And we're back. How you doing, folks?
Great. You're looking good, Addy.
Likewise, George and Peter. How we doing?
Good.
George, are you in Florida?
I am. I'm looking right at Jeff Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's house over here, and then the Trump courtroom over there.
So you're in the thick of it. Oh, but when you turned your computer, you muted yourself.
Sorry
Yeah,
about that.
That's okay.
I bumped the mic. Yeah. Yes, I am in the thick of it, and you know, it's been really helpful because they've gone and done a lot of things that are after 6 p.m. in this trial with the Trump raid, and that like 10:30 at night.
So tell me about that.
Well, I was the only guy there at the courthouse until the 6 p.m. deadline. And the reason why I go to the courthouse is because people come out that work at the courthouse when they're done working, and they'll tell you things. So, I mean, that's like, this trial's moving to Atlanta. This is what two of the guys who left said, is this thing's going to Atlanta, which is the Court of Appeals if the special master isn't named tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. But Trump picked two people, the DOJ picked two people, and now the judge has to pick somebody. Anyway, they both went past their 6 p.m. time limit, and it wasn't announced until I went to bed. Now, I'm not sure I'm under constant surveillance. They're waiting to see when is Webb in bed, and now hit the button, and they sent it in. So they sent it in literally about 25 minutes after I went to bed on Friday night. But I was up at 6. I was actually up at 4 that morning, but I was up at 6 reporting it. It was still dark. I was waiting for it to get light at the courthouse, but it wasn't. So I finally did a piece at 6 a.m. But that's why I say you got to get in here and inhale everything around the story, not just the story.
Well, that's kind of the way that we thought that journalists worked when we were kids, right? That's what we thought. Oh, it's the shoe leather kind of journalism, right?
Yeah, I mean, the special master was named, for instance, Paul Huck was one of the guys. His dad was a federal judge here in Florida. We went to his law firm. We went to a couple of different places Donald Barr made so famous. Not Donald Barr, excuse me. Sometimes I say Donald Barr when I mean Bill Barr. Right. I never thought Bill Barr ever did anything wrong in his life.
Yeah, there's Donald Barr, there's Bill Barr, there's gold bars. There's all kinds of, There's Bill Clinton, Bill Barr, and dollar bills. So there's all kinds of confusion.
I want a statue for the National Education Foundation to be built for Bill Barr, and I'm not going to let anybody ever say anything bad about Donald Barr ever, even if it's the most important thing tomorrow that we knock down Bill Barr as the biggest critic for Trump, and we lose or win our democracy. No way I will ever let anybody say anything bad about Donald Barr. And I never did say anything. I went back in our show and I looked to see if I said anything bad about Donald Barr. We told a long story, about Bill Barr.
Yes.
Flying in a plane, right? In a plane, a C-47, I think we said, with a mini computer, either a digital data general.
I think it was a bigger plane. There's actually video of him, although I think it's at a later date, of him sitting like in the back of a C-130 with the tail open.
Oh, C-130 would make more sense because that was the part that didn't make sense. The C-47 is pretty small. But we don't know who the little computer technician was, but he was about 18 years old, right? Running the software, the systematic software, potentially also the PROMIS software for Iran-Contra, and it could be one Peter Strzok.
And I think that was in Chip Tatum's Mueller book, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Mule. You can't get the Mule. I tried to buy the book, The Mule, today. $39 for that 47-page paperback. Addy, we're not charging enough for our paperbacks.
I bought it.
That's a lot of money. I hope he's making a good profit.
I think I have it. I think I bought it.
Off Amazon or a different outlet?
I think it was on Kindle. I'm going to go look. I think it was on Kindle, and I think it was like $10 or something when it came out. Because it was short. It was like 18 pages or something.
Well, it's just $2.99 for She Wears No Yellow Badge, the Sybil Edmonds story by George Webb and Addy Adds. So on sale on Kindle. I think it's #1 in short political science reads, if I'm not mistaken. But that being said, the paperback's also available.
This book's not doing too bad either.
So I have it. I have the Mule right here. So,
well, if you search, I don't know if you can
search for Barr.
Yeah, well, his code name was Robert Johnson, I think, for when he flew down there. But this is hey, Bill, you're shrinking the laundry. You could be president. And it was toward the end of Bill Clinton's second or his last term as governor.
All right. So it says the chapter header is the general has to go. In a 1985 meeting in Costa Rica, William Barr advised Vice President Bush that funds and product were being siphoned off by partners in the quote-unquote enterprise. Bush ordered Barr to find out who was responsible. The finding was simple. The Clintons were cleared, but Barry Seal and Manuel Noriega were the thieves. Vice President Bush was adamant that both Seal and Noriega had to be taken care of. His fear of a path leading to the White House and possibly impeachment at the minimum resulted in orders for his trusted, I think he meant his trusted counsel, William Barr, to pave the path and find a solution. Below is a synopsis of the meeting. Who is William Barr? From 1973 to 1977, William Barr was employed by the Central Intelligence Agency, a confidant to DCI G.H.W. Bush. Barr was a well-trusted and very adept at whatever assignment given by the DCI. Barr was a law clerk to Justice Malcolm Wilkie of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit from 77 through 78. He served on the domestic policy staff at the Reagan White House from May 3, 1982 to September 5, 1983, with his official title being Deputy Assistant Director for Legal Policy. As a confidant, VP Bush used Barr as the unofficial legal counsel for the enterprise. And the enterprise, for people who are trying to catch up, I believe, is the Oliver North, Barry Seal drug running operation.
Captain Kirk.
And Maxine Waters was running cover in Congress for that. As a confidant, VP Bush used Barr as the unofficial legal counsel for the enterprise. As a result of the 1985 meeting, he was well aware of the need to neutralize General Noriega. After all, it was Barr that found the thieves. Seal was no longer a threat, as he was, quote-unquote, taken care of in 1986 by friends of Jeb Bush out of Columbia.
Yep.
I can stop, or you want me to keep going?
Well, I just wanted to throw in 1987. I'm in. Well, first of all, I've been following the story a long time, and you are. This is where being a boomer really helps. But but again, this guy's trying to take out the president, right? He's on all the talkies, and comes out of the woodwork, and so does Peter Strzok, right at the same time. Did they fly that C-130 together? We'll get back to that. But my point being is, this is the time we got to point out the person who's riding on the white horse, the high horse, is a drug runner, and he has been his whole career. Okay, this is why it's so important not to, if somebody makes a mistake in their verbiage and they say Donald versus Bill on one thing, even though we didn't. That's not when you use all your energy and effort to try to undermine. You say, wait a minute, this is the most important thing that's going to happen in our democracy tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And they were right that Bill Barr did this. In 1987, Jeff Epstein gets involved. Les Wexner gets involved. Southern Air Transport in Columbus, because their laundry's getting shrunk here in MENA by Bill Clinton.
Right. Well, the Barry Seal operation was blown, so they had to figure out another way, right?
Southern Air Transport, Bob Fitrakis, I met him. I went to his office, his law office in Columbus. I was meeting Cliff Arnebeck. He told me, hey, I was supposed to depose Seth Rich the day before he was killed. Really? Because Seth Rich was the guy who Jeff Epstein worked with to fly the long flight to Hong Kong, right? So there was a long flight to Hong Kong that Wexner set up. Bob Fitrakis also wrote about that. But he was talking about this Southern Air Transport, started in 87 after Barry Seal gets killed and after Noriega is overthrown. And it goes right from the Rickenbacker Field. I've gone there, stood on the tarmac, right? From the defense industry, or the defense supply center, the DISC, where you supply people for overthrows. Now, I don't blame me, but when you want to fill up a C-130 with a whole bunch of stuff for an overthrow, you got to have boots, you got to have shoelaces, you got to have canteens, you got to have packs, you got to have weapons.
Don't forget the bullets.
Oh, yes, and that comes from something called the Defense Supply Center, the DSC in Columbus. We went there. I went to the DSC numerous times, interviewed people who worked there. Right? This happened. This is not a figment of the imagination. This is why I say when anybody goes to child trafficking with Jeff Epstein, they miss everything. You miss it all. And I'm going to convert everybody who's written a book on Jeff Epstein to this, because this is where the Barr-Epstein connection, the Epstein-Barr, it's not a virus unless you call war and overthrow a virus. This is where it happened. Columbus, 1987. That's the juice.
What's interesting about that year is the CIA just got a new director. The years leading to that was William Casey, who was into young teenage boys, by the way. They got one William H. Webster from 87 to 91. And as far as the drugs thing, too, I was listening to Hopsiker last night. He was just on Ed Opperman's show. He estimates some 50% of the dark money is derived from the drug trade alone. So all the child trafficking, jewel trafficking, gold trafficking, etc., combined doesn't equal to the amount of money they get from the drug trade.
Right. I mean, I think that to George's point, whenever somebody is using the word pedophile and they're going, oh, this person's a pedophile and that person's a pedophile, it's like the pedophilia is a tool. It's like saying, oh, this person is using this illegal screwdriver. I know it's illegal, it's an immoral thing, but the screwdriver is being used to do something, right? It's being used to influence legislation or grease the skids at some legal situation. There's a reason why it happens. It's not prurient. It's not pure prurient. It's not singly about some person's fetish or their aberrant behavior. It's a tool that's being used in order to manipulate events and push things in a certain direction. Means
to an end. Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and Harry the Greek did a lot of great articles on the adoption agency in Columbus. That's where Peter Strzok ends up. That's where Lisa Page ends up as the Iranian translator to bring these people into Patel laboratories and so forth. So I'm not. I want to build a statue too to Donald Barr, but the day before this big showdown here. At this court where they're going to try to take a president out. And remember, you're opening the door for political SWAT raids, swastika raids forever. Fourth Amendment out forever. Fifth
I like
Amendment
that
out.
Swastika raid. That's better than a SWAT team.
Swastika. Yeah, you don't even have to change the letters.
You didn't get swatted. You got swastikaed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really important right now that we look at Donald Parr's illegal activity and say this is the unholy matrimony with the Epstein and Wexner. Wexner was the guy who moved the whole airport over to Rickenbacker for Southern Air Transport, right? So why does Wexner give Jeff Epstein his mansion in New York? Just because he likes Jeff Epstein or because he made a few dollars on a hedge fund? No, because he ran drugs to not Nicaragua, but to Honduras for one Les Wexner. And they also, Dayton, they had at the Limited had a warehouse. I published a picture with the Mossad general with Wexner, and they also flew out of Dayton, Wright-Patterson, under diplomatic cover for diplomats. So this is the juice. We've got to start calling out Bill Barr for the drug dealer.
So the hypothesis is that Wexner was flying a lot of clothes around, right? He was having clothes manufactured in Vietnam. He was having clothes manufactured in Central America. And then he was shipping those clothes to Ohio. Is that, do I have that?
I interviewed somebody in, where was it? It wasn't in Columbus. It was in New Orleans, who had worked for Les Wexner. And they had the whole thing down. He said, Les Wexner had an apple. And he was like craving this apple. And he was like, this is all I am going to be able to eat today. The margins are so slim here at Victoria's Secret maybe it was at the Limited that I'll only have this apple. I can't eat it, but I want to during the interview. But I want to look forward to eating it. So he had this song of woe about how there's no margin in the business. And that's why I can't pay you. But in actual fact, he was doing all these flights. Spook Airs is the article. Bob Fitrakis is the guy. And Whitney Webb has come back and done essays on top of the source reporting that Bob Fitrakis did in Columbus. So this isn't something I dreamed up. Johnny Vedmore's come in. I think Daryl Brose
Derek Brose.
Derek Brose. A lot of people have talked about this. This isn't something I came up with. And there's many, many, many books about this Iran-Contra. And I'm sorry, maybe the PROMIS software is fake, right? But I produced I sent it to you, Peter, the Ken Starr 4-page report about the PROMIS software and Iran-Contra and the Mina airport, right? So documents, we have the documents, okay, for those who like documents. So this is the time to focus on the enemy, the drug dealer who wants to take out democracy. That's what's at stake here now, not building a statue to Donald Barr.
Or raising the bar.
Yeah, let's raise the bar here. Let's raise the bar.
Raise the gallows a little higher. I agree. Yes.
Okay, so George, so for people who haven't been following the show for a long time, okay, in a concise way, can you like tie Donald Barr to what's going on outside your window right now?
No, he's a completely innocent person. He did meet Henry Kissinger for coffee at the Battle of the Bulge. Just so happens there was an exchange of prisoners there. That Henry Kissinger spoke German. Donald Barr was the Italian interpreter. They both were in the OSS intelligence. They happened to be there during a very unusual advance by the German Panzer Division.
Is Donald Barr in this book?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, all right.
Kissinger, I'm sure interviewed a lot of the German prisoners and so forth, and then they forgot they ever met. Donald Barr went on to become the person who basically started STEM education, if you will, when all the Nazi paper clippers that got brought into all of our national laboratories needed to have underlings, but Donald Barr had nothing to do with that. Henry Kissinger forgot all about Donald Barr.
Wait, that was Donald
Barr. Yeah, that was Donald Barr, the father. Right. And so then a young Bill Barr comes up out of nowhere with no connections at all to the Department of Energy or anything like that. And he fills out a resume. He says he wants to become the head of the CIA, and he gets picked out by George Bush among thousands and thousands and thousands of resumes.
So Donald Barr is squeaky clean.
Squeaky.
Okay.
Right.
Why do you think he hired Jeff Epstein at the Dalton School?
Oh, no. There was a month in between. Donald Barr left and took his apples with him, and then Jeff Epstein came in right after. There was a month in between. I'm not even sure they ever met. That's how innocent he is. But it is interesting that he did know Kissinger in 45 or in 44 during the Battle of the Bulge. That is an interesting meeting, an OSS meeting. It's funny because let's just read this, right? Let's just read the article here.
All right. Let me see if I can blow it up, and if I can't, I will.
This is for you, Donald Barr. I'm going to eat an apple for you.
Okay, I'll read it because people may have problems. To the Honorable Kenneth. Oh, it's from the. No, it's to the Honorable Kenneth W. Starr. Dear Judge Starr, public revelations to date in the independent counsel's investigation indicate that the so-called Whitewater affair is a banking industry scandal with as yet unexplained links to the Rose law firm of Little Rock and to two of its former partners, Webster Hubbell, Chelsea Clinton's father, who served as the associate Attorney General, and Vincent Foster, who served as the White House counsel in the Clinton administration. Such are the apparent implications of guilty pleas thus far obtained in the investigation from the individuals described as cooperating witnesses, including pleas by two persons associated with the Arkansas Banking and Financial Services Institution, David Hale and Robert Palmer, and the pleas by Hubbell for billing and expense fraud. This is like a slap and seal kind of like...
David Hale. Yeah. There's a name for you, David Hale.
Billing and expense frauds while a partner at the Rose law firm. It's also the apparent implication of the continuing investigation into the unexplained sudden depression and death of Vincent Foster. One common thread linking the Rose law firm, Hubbell, and Foster with the banking industry is the Little Rock-based Systematics, a $700 million Rose law firm, $700 million a year Rose law firm client. They're not paying the Rose law firm $700 million a year, are they? No, I'm assuming that's their...
That was Jackson Stevens, the guy who started...
I assume that's their net revenue, not what the Rose law firm is billing.
And he
Although, go on.
Well, he got started here in Florida with using pension funds for the railroad, and this is Hopsiker tells me this. And I went to Jackson Stevens law firm in Venice, right next to where all the 9/11 hijackers trained on their planes. Jackson Stevens knows how to do a false flag, right? And then Jackson Stevens was in Arkansas as well, and he got Sam Walton started at Walmart, and Tyson Foods, who where they stuff the heroin in the chicken. Tyson's Food, Bill Clinton's best buddy over there. So that's who they're talking about, Systematics. And PROMIS Software may be a figment of Systematics' imagination, right? But here's a letter that's going to talk a lot about it with a lot of people involved in a lot of congressional investigation. That's all I'm saying. And I got Wayne Madsen told me directly to my face, he sat in Bill Hamilton's office, and Bill Hamilton, the guy who headed up the PROMIS Software, said, "You know who's the last person who sat in that chair, Wayne? Danny Casolaro." So maybe Bill Hamilton's a big liar. I don't know. But the last person, he said, sat in that chair is Danny Casolaro.
So for people who don't know, Danny Casolaro, who was a investigative reporter, who was working on a project that he called the Octopus, that was trying to tie all of this stuff together.
That's right.
And
you should read the second page of that, because that's where it gets into PROMIS.
All right. Well, let me get to the second page here. Hang on a second. I might need some water first.
That kind of sounds like a threat a little bit. Like the last person that was sat in that chair was Danny Casolaro,
I think it's one of those things that, like Kolomoisky, when he has a glass office, glass floor, and there's piranhas that he has circling underneath you when you're meeting with him. And he has a little thing where you can pull and feed the fish right underneath you. And all the piranhas come right underneath you. Kolomoisky does when he does that. I think it's one of those kind of power things,
I just want to point something out to Connie. I'm not really drinking Fiji water. I bought a Fiji water and then I refilled the bottle. So I know that Connie is, she's cognizant of how much money I spent on yogurt. So I just want to let her know that I know it's Barack Obama's favorite water, but I bought one and then I refilled the bottle. So
is Connie a big time patron of yours, Peter?
Connie is a patron of the channel. Connie takes good care of everybody, and she was calling me out last week because I spent too much money on yogurt. I didn't do it on purpose, and I thought that I would share it with everybody. So
sure. I'm just very hesitant to give any airtime to people who are not being helpful in a meaningful way.
No, I think that she's in general helpful. So I'm just putting it out there. Okay. All right. So here we go. So this is the second page. I skipped the last paragraph. Systematics banking industry work is not, however, limited to the work it performs for bank customers. According to the statements made to INSLAW by individuals knowledgeable about Allied, and I'm interested who the allies are, Allied covert intelligence initiatives during the Reagan and Bush administrations. These individuals say that at the behest of the U.S. National Security Agency, NSA, and its partner in Israeli intelligence, Systematics has covertly implanted into the computers of its bank customers a technical capability that permits Allied intelligence agencies surreptitiously to track and monitor the flow of money through the banking system. According to now, is your contention, George, that, okay, so this is INSLAW they're talking about. Was your contention that if PROMIS doesn't really exist, that maybe this is a parallel construction, a cover story?
Yeah, I'm not saying that PROMIS, like I've, done screen design for the PROMIS, input boards. I did remember hearing from our government and educational branch who sold PROMIS that you could do tattoos. And it was one of the first programs that was a text-based program that you could do a graphic image, which I thought was pretty cool. And perpetrator identification was really a big deal. It would also call back to the FBI fingerprint database for people, and then bring back the identities. So it wasn't automatic. It didn't store the fingerprints for some reason. It could store a tattoo though, which I thought was interesting.
Interesting. According to the same sources.
But the Mossad connections here have always been thought to be Ben Menashe, who was the international arms dealer, Israeli international arms dealer, and Robert Maxwell.
Right. Or his daughter, right?
Well, that came later with Cargo Metrics.
Okay.
But we'll get there.
According to the same sources, Systematics created this special technical capability by adopting a computer software system originally designed for tracking litigants and their cases through the court system to the task of tracking depositors and their electronic fund transfers through the banking system. This is the software that the Reagan Justice Department misappropriated from INSLAW Inc. through trickery and fraud and deceit, according to the fully litigated findings of fact of 2 lower federal courts, later confirmed and supplemented by investigative findings in the House Judiciary Committee. You want to talk about that?
I'm just saying, if it's a fake, it's a pretty good one, because the House Judiciary is meeting and everybody's meeting on this thing, and they're giving them money because they said that the Israelis stole it. They're saying Bob Maxwell stole it for 12 years, and therefore they're giving him money. So if it's a figment, it's a good one.
Now I want to stop here for a second and ask you about this, because this is a little bit earlier than this, maybe not too much earlier, maybe 5 or 6 years earlier. Bill Gates was selling paper tape. He was selling BASIC as paper tape, and stealing software meant actually stealing a copy of software. Boomers remember when software came on discs, and you could take your friend's disk and you could put it in your computer, and if you had the right numbers and it wasn't checking online, more than one person could run the software. Is that what they're talking about, stealing software? Because it seems to me that the software without the database doesn't mean anything. It's really the data that this thing is collecting, and the stuff that was it like a mainframe system that you logged into and you were buying seats? I mean, how did it work?
It ran on a DEC. It ran on a Burroughs at one point. I thought it was written in COBOL. It ran on a DG, Data General.
Right. So these are mini computers for people, for millennials out there. They were these filing cabinet-sized computers that cost about $400,000.
So when you're telling me that Bill Barr wheels a mini computer on to the Mena airport to go try to figure out who's shorting the laundry in Mena, right? And I know right here from this letter that it's the PROMIS Software doing the accounting. It's not too big of a stretch to assume that they're taking the PROMIS machine down to Mena.
Yeah, and I think Chip Tatum does talk about the mini computer in here. I was going to look for that.
But this is why we need to be able to ask Donald Barr questions as soon as he comes out of these press releases saying Donald Trump should go to jail. Oh, wait a minute. We just need to get his classified documents now. We need to indict him, but not send him to jail now.
But I heard Jim Acosta ask him that question. Oh, wait. No, I didn't.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Everybody's afraid of him. But yeah. So, but this is the juice, because not for any other reason, but I want to prove to everybody that the person who's trying to take down Donald Trump right now is trying to cover their tracks of over 30 years of drug running. That's the juice here, right?
Right, and that was your contention from day one when Mueller got assigned. It was the Mueller investigation, and then it was the Bill Barr Attorney General thing. It was kind of like this is a classic intelligence. It's a classic scheme that goes. I think Farrell would argue that it goes back to Babylon, where you're basically, or certainly it's since J.P. Morgan became involved in the round table group. Is you basically you put players on both sides of the and George Webb calls that a school play, right? You have somebody who's pretending to be the good guy and somebody who's pretending to be the bad guy, depending upon which side you're looking at it from. Bill Barr, Robert Mueller was a bad guy if you were a Trump supporter, and he was a good guy if you were a Democrat. And Bill Barr was a bad guy if you were a Democrat, and a good guy if you were a Trump supporter. And then they pretend to like punch each other, like Punch and Judy. It's really like puppets. Like, I don't know if you remember Punch and Judy shows when the puppets would fight each other.
Punch and Judy.
It was always ridiculous, right? It's always kind of a ridiculous fight. But it makes television. And all of this stuff makes television shows, and people watch it, and then they believe, oh, rah, rah for my side. They're going to get him. Mueller's going to get him. Bill Barr is going to get him. And at the end of the day, nothing happens except all of the covers that Bill Barr and Robert Mueller were involved in. Because Mueller was involved in a lot of that stuff, too. I mean,
very closely associated with Bill Barr.
Yeah.
30 years. Their wives prayed together at St. John's across from the White House for 30 years.
Right.
They didn't trade any secrets underneath the pew. They
were praying for forgiveness.
They should have never left.
Yeah, they need it. They need it. All right, so I will continue. Hubble. Am I in the third paragraph now? Yeah, I am. Hubble. That's Webb Hubble. Spearheaded the Clinton Justice Department review of the INSLAW affair, and Hubble and Foster were in communication about the INSLAW affair during this review. According to the disclosures to INSLAW by an individual closely associated with Foster in the White House. It's interesting that in this letter to Ken Starr, they're using a confidential source, right? An individual closely associated with Foster. Who's that? The technical capability. Hillary Clinton. Yeah, and let's remind everybody, that the tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist thinks that Webb Hubble is Chelsea Clinton's father, and Vince Foster wound up dead, and we talked about the suicide notes last week. Two suicide notes, yes. The technical capability that Systemix allegedly implanted into its customers' computer systems to support allied intelligence agencies has also been used to support another initiative, according to some of the same sources, the laundering of money, especially drug profits, through direct access to the computers of the mainstream banking and financial system. It's interesting, the language to me, just because this was written in 1995, and we talk about hackers now, right? And what a lot of people don't realize, to George's point, this is a program that was written in COBOL that runs on mini computers. You don't just walk up to one of those computers and slip a disk in and click on something and have the software magically change. It's all manual. It's all somebody, an analyst goes in and they're looking at, amber-colored screens, right, amber on black lettering, and they're typing in all kinds of arcane language and code in order to get it to do something. Nothing is automatic here, so there is no hacker coming in from the outside of the system. It's somebody who's sitting and building this functionality into the software package.
It sounds like our elections. That's what it sounds like.
I think our elections are a lot easier to hack than this software.
Well, it was Larry Nichols. I interviewed him a couple times that said all this in verbally. It said Webb Hubble, the Arkansas Development Finance Corporation, all the money went through there. Bill Clinton gave out $50,000 loans like it was going out of style, as long as he got $10,000 at the Rose Law Firm. If an envelope showed up at the Rose Law Firm, ADF sent you $50,000. And there was a good old boy network. And Bill Clinton, of course, everybody knew who Bill Clinton was, because he was giving out the government's money for Arkansas Redevelopment Finance, and he was getting $10,000 contributions. So that's the juice here. It goes back to Bill Barr. It goes back to Jeff Epstein. It goes back to Bill Clinton and the Clintons. That's why you have an unholy metadata here that all makes sense. Bill Barr comes out of the right and goes after the throat for Trump with this raid, and Peter Strzok, Clinton's henchman, comes out of the left, and they both try to strangle Trump at the same time. The metadata is so strong here that they were on that C-130.
Right. And so the question, always for me is like for people who defend Trump, is okay. Was he aware that any of this was happening, or is he really just Rodney Dangerfield, and be, you know what I'm saying? Because we've figured it out here in the outside. George Webb and his cadre of citizen journalists have figured this out. Whitney Webb figured it out. James Corbett figured it out. There's lots of other people who figured it out. How come no one inside the White House who's got Donald Trump's ear is communicating any of this to him? That's the question. Oh, and if they are, why is he ignoring it? Again, big questions for Trump. Hubble's Justice Department aides. In the course of Hubble's review of the INSLAW affair, now Hubble in this case is doing the Bill Barr, right? He's doing the damage control assessment, right?
Cover up. Yep.
He's doing the cover up. So yeah, look for the guy who's in charge to do the cover up. Alan Dulles in the case of the JFK assassination, Henry Kissinger, who was originally assigned to the 9/11 investigation. It's like I always look at the top person in these cover ups because that's the person who's in charge of covering it up. All right, Hubble's Justice Department aides, in the course of Hubble's review of the INSLAW affair, appear, for example, to have obstructed a related ongoing federal criminal investigation by the U.S. Customs Service. The focus, and it's interesting that this Customs Service, because the Customs Service seems to be the one agency that has the most resilience to being infiltrated by the deep state. I may be wrong there, but it seems to me the Customs and Immigration, they kind of seem to be the last bastion of this. The focus of the Customs investigation was on whether a U.S. government contracting officer who served successively as contracting officer for the Customs Service Drug Interdiction Program along the Mexico-United States border and as a Justice Department contracting officer during the misappropriation of the INSLAW software, had committed perjury when he denied under oath having undisclosed business relationships with two other private sector individuals. So forget what I just said about the Customs Department, although it seems like he was a contractor. So,
well, Bill Weld is the guy we've said for 6 years, was DOJ in Boston, and he was using the software. Richard Armitage was Kissinger's man in this deal. And if this is software for overthrows, and you don't think of it like that. You think overthrow should be just like, hey guys, we're going to run 32 long, green, break, and let's run the play, right? But actually, there's a lot of logistics involved in an overthrow, as Bay of Pigs proved, right? And I remember somebody taking us on a bus to an OSS connection from Donald Barr, the father, down to the port of Baltimore, and looking at the connections to the Bay of Pigs. So the only stop I organized on that trip was Molly McCauley, because she was murdered in Baltimore as well, near Johns Hopkins University. And I was saying, hey, maybe she was the handler for the Iwans because they all went to school there. She was in satellites, and the Iwans had nanosat. They were looking at how, different things like virus epidemics formed, looking down on it from satellites, the metadata from satellites.
Is that NRO?
NRO has satellites, but she was at NASA Goddard.
Okay.
But she had been brutally murdered, and supposedly by two guys with two huge dogs, and at like 11 o'clock at night in this area. And I stopped the bus there to say, didn't anybody hear this? She's being stabbed to death and screaming and so forth. Nobody heard anything. And it's one of those boulevards where you can see everything.
What was the date then? Because I have pictures, I think.
You went there. You went to.
No, I'm remembering.
It was Annapolis. I think it was August 2018 or 2019. Maybe 2000. It was 3 years ago.
Or maybe 17.
No, it wasn't 17. It was 18.
Okay. 18.
Yeah, it was in Annapolis, though. You could probably find it by looking for Annapolis. But my point being is The day after Molly McCauley dies, this person who might be saying, hey, some of our bandwidth for our satellites is being used by this terrorist organization. We had all of these satellite connections with the Awans to the Space Eyes, a company called Space Eyes and so forth. And she was saying this X-band that was being reserved for our military communications in emergency was being co-opted by the FBI. And she was involved in this company called Resources for the Future, and there was the Podesta involved with that, and it seemed to be there was just so many things. She gets killed, and then the next day, Seth Rich is killed as seemingly a cover to say, let's bury this whistleblower, get her out of the way, and now we'll substitute Seth Rich as the person.
And then everybody's talking about Seth Rich. People are not. The Molly McCauley thing goes off of the news cycle. You never hear about it again.
Right. And I think she was the early whistleblower for the Awans for the space stuff. So anyway, that's the only stop that I said for the bus to make on that. But the bus did go down to the port of Baltimore, where the OSS supposedly outfitted what they used to do. The Teamsters, 17 different Teamsters unions, used to send from their group weapons to a shipping port, and then the ship would take it down to pre-stage it for the invasion before the Teamsters were broken up in 73. So we were going down there to look at Donald Barr's connection to Donald Barr, the father's connection to the Port of Baltimore on this trip. And that wasn't my trip. That was somebody else who wants to build a statue to the Donald Barr right now. Great. But I didn't organize the bus trip to go down there. That person did. Okay. So if there was no connection, there's no connection. But I wasn't the one who said Donald Barr was involved in weapons and drugs. Never. So I just why not get the story right?
Okay. Well, I'm confused.
Well, don't be confused. Let's go back to this story, which is this is a separate story. The Molly McCauley with the Awans is a separate story. Sorry I mentioned that. But the interesting piece to me was Bob Fitrakis. Bob Fitrakis knew all about Jeff Epstein in 87 taking over the drug route for the Contras. He wrote Spook Air, and he was the guy who was going to be interviewing Seth Rich the day Molly McCauley was murdered. I just find that an amazing coincidence.
Wait, he was going to be interviewing Seth Rich?
Yes, he was going to be deposing Seth Rich. He told me right to my face. I was standing right in front of Cliff Arnebeck when he told me. In his office in Columbus when he told me. Okay? He said I was supposed to be deposing Seth Rich the day Molly McCauley was killed, and that he found out the next day that Seth Rich was murdered in D.C.
Have you written this in a book?
Yes, I've written it in a book.
What was the book? Because this is a good time to pimp it.
We should pimp the 9/11 book we just did. Which is Sibel Edmonds' connection there with the 9/11 whistleblower intelligence, Citizen Journo, and Rock Island Virus, soon to be live as well. So
I'll give everybody a little sneak peek of Rock Island Virus because there's a whole bunch of 9/11 stuff in that in about 2 seconds.
Yeah, go for it, George.
Yeah. So, okay, Peter, I'm sorry. I took us off with the Molly McCauley thing.
Look, I can keep up with you. That's not the problem. I'm just worried about all those people out there.
I agree with you. Let's go back to just so people know I'm not making this up, that PROMIS Software really did exist. Danny Casolaro really did get killed. There really was a congressional investigation on this.
Did you get a chance to watch the Dr. Farrell video that I sent you a link to?
No.
Dr. Farrell's cousin met Danny Casolaro twice and had long conversations with him about what he was working on, and never talked to Dr. Farrell about it ever until last week when he found out. They went on Dark Journalist, and Dr. Farrell kind of deposed his cousin on a live stream.
It's obviously the subject of a lot of books, and so I find this connect the dots, the Columbus connection to Jeff Epstein, we've been working on it for 5 years, is always surprising to people because all they hear about is Epstein's Island or the Stone Fortress. Those are the two things that they're familiar with.
And George never wants to let Ohio not slip out of the picture because you're a native son, right?
I am.
Yes.
Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah.
Mount Sinai Hospital, Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah.
Lots of drugs go through Ohio. And let's not forget the FBI never raided the Zorro Ranch in New Mexico. But Donald Trump also, of course, cannot say the same for his properties.
But the FBI did stop George Webb when he was on his way to investigate
missing uranium.
And
guess who weighs in on Q level clearances a day ago? Peter Strzok. Because somebody said, hey, those FBI guys that came in there had to have Q level clearances because there was Department of Energy level stuff, which is the nuclear stuff. And Peter Strzok went out there and said, well, almost all of our guys that went in there had Q level clearances, like he was the guy running the raid. But it's probably because of their SAPs. We've talked a lot about special access programs. And he goes, depending on what their sigmas were.
Is that the SAP?
Yeah, sigmas are, you learn the nuclear life cycle as an FBI agent, and you get rated higher and higher sigmas, depending on your expertise. And the final sigmas are the manufacturing process and the deployment of where the missiles are. So he's basically saying, when you get to my level and you know where the missiles are, that's when you can do a raid like they did at Trump. And then he wiped out his account because he realized, he said, I'm the only one who could have planted the stuff. 118 pages.
Oh, he wiped it out?
He wiped it out, yeah.
So he's no longer on Twitter?
Yeah. After he said that, the sigmas.
Wait, you said that was Strzok that did that?
Yeah, he said.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah,
an ego is a terrible thing to waste, and Peter Strzok doesn't seem to waste any of his ego. That's a story in and of itself. Why is that not a story? Peter Strzok deletes his account? Come on.
I don't know if that's true. Somebody told me it was true, but what I'm saying is he's saying that, oh, no, it would only be related to your sigmas if your eyes could fall on those documents or not. And you would have to have really high.
Looks like it's still up.
You would have to have really high sigmas. And check out. Let's put that. How long have we been talking about Q level clearances? And everyone said we made it up, right? How long have we been talking about SAPs? And everybody said we made it up. Okay?
How long have we been talking about Sibel Edmonds?
And everybody said we made her up. Yeah,
they said that, but now you can find the proof. Amazon, Addy Adds, George Webb.
Yes, thank you, Addy. Addy, you got a great name. You're getting those ads in there. I love it. We got to make some money here.
Addy adds the ads.
All right.
I'm looking forward to touching that. Actually,
maybe Addy can find the.
Search on the word Strzok and Sigma. Search on the word Strzok and Sigma, and you'll see the
okay,
the
I'm
tweet.
on it. Here we go. Pete Strzok, good old Pete.
Yeah, I can't search for him on my Peter Duke account because he has me blocked.
but I captured it. I captured his tweet. So
is it in your Twitter stream?
Should be, yeah, somewhere. I won't be able to go to it immediately, just because I probably posted 5 or 6 things. But my point here is that
I got it.
You got it.
Here we go. Have Addy share it.
Okay, it's in the private chat there. Not sure this is right. A lot of agents presumably have Q with various sigmas capitalized.
I believe
more likely relates to a SAP in response to one M polymer, Mark Polymeropoulos, presumably Greek.
And that was in response or commented on Morning Joe, I think, said something about
material on foreign nations' nuclear capabilities seized at Mar-a-Lago. Clint Watts responded. Investigators grew alarmed, according to one person familiar with the search, as they began to review documents retrieved from the club's storage closet, Trump's residence, and his office in August. The team soon became upon records that are extremely restricted, so much that even some of the senior-most national security officials in the Biden administration were not authorized to review them. One government filing alluded to this information when it noted that counterintelligence, FBI agents, and prosecutors investigating the Mar-a-Lago documents were not authorized at first to review some of the material seized. And then M. Palmer, retired CIA, presumably this is related to what is called a Q clearance. The Department of Energy, unique security clearance related to nukes. Not surprising that FBI agents and even many senior level White House officials did not have them. So this is what struck disputes. Not sure this is right. Think this more likely relates to an SAP.
And
Entirely possible.
Gives us the
Special
answer.
access program.
Yep.
Yes, special access program.
Not the SAP software that the guy's
No.
talking to Donald Trump about in my video.
No, but he's basically saying the FBI counterintelligence program for where foreign enemies in the United States have positioned their missiles is the SAP, right? And there could be many SAPs. So there could be just for France, there could be a team. So they would only see France because they only have a need to know for France.
Right, because they have a containerized or
yeah. And so what he's saying is it's going to be the guys who are in the French SAP that were allowed to look at that. And there's going to be some people, though, that have super user capability. And it's going to be Peter Strzok, right? And so he's pointing back to himself. Did Trump really keep the missile configuration map for France? For what reason? You know, for a new Mar-a-Lago like wallpaper? You know, it strains credulity. But it does verify everything we've said over the last 5 years about Q-level clearance and SAPs. Thanks to Peter Strzok.
End of Days Prophet wants you to write a book about meeting Neil Armstrong, Peter.
Well, I never met Neil Armstrong.
I never met him either. I
met Buzz Aldrin.
Okay.
I've been to Wapakoneta. I had an Impossible Burger, not in Wapakoneta, but you can get an Impossible Burger in Wapakoneta. Just saying. I've
been to the Clinton Beach House up in the Hamptons. Well, as close as I could get, but
go ahead, Peter.
I was just talking to producer Carrie. We welcome on-topic questions and comments in the chat, but off-topic rambling is highly frowned upon. So I'm just
although free speech is allowed, right?
Free speech is allowed, but a lot of people like to let us know what they had for lunch in the comments, and it's okay to let us know what you have for lunch once, but like there it is.
Okay, so I'm gonna give everybody a look-see at Rock Island virus, and because it's 9/11 and everybody showed up, if you want me to, Peter, if you want to go back to that other thing,
no, go on.
Page file. Okay, so I'm going to
share the screen. Go ahead.
So you want page 5? Wait.
No. I'm going to share it here real quick.
Okay.
Let me know when you can see that.
I can see it, and I'll add it to the stream. There you go.
Okay, so the big idea here in Rock Island virus is the person I used to work with, research assistant, ex-cop from California, comes to Washington, D.C. to help me on this Awan case because she says, hey, you're missing it. This is me in Virginia going on knocking on doors with her. She says that there was two attacks on 9/11 originally planned. There was one for the planes, but then there was a bio attack, an anthrax attack as a part of it. That we're going to take planes and fly in formation like they did over here in Venice Beach and coat southern Manhattan in anthrax. And that would allow you to buy lower Manhattan at pennies on the dollar because supposedly it would be contaminated. She said that the organization was P-Tech. She showed me how she linked Muhammad Atta's encrypted device with all the other hijackers with Imran Awan's devices. She's also mentioned that P-Tech worked and had all these top secret clearances like Imran Awan did. She also mentioned that Nellie Orr and Miter were in the basement of the FAA 2 years with P-Tech before 9/11. Okay. She also had these people that she knew at JSOC Intelligence down at Fort Bragg. She also said they helped do the national defense strategy for the Congress, for the covert part, the classified part. And there, I just put the proof steps in there. She thought the Blind Sheik was the person that was going to do the bio attack as well, not just the 1993 bombing, not just the 2001 bombing, but the 2001 bio bombing. Okay. She thought that it was a front. The Blind Sheik was a front for Pakistan because they were the only ones who had the nuclear missile capability for a bio attack across the United States. She identified a lab in Faisalabad where they were doing this type of bio testing with Imran Awan, and also satellite surveillance of how people reacted to the pandemic with this company called NanoSet. And then she talks about how this could lead into a much larger 9/11, 100 9/11s. So there's the juice of 9/11, and that's what's coming up. She talked all about the drop boxes and so forth. So, and I put in the proof of us going knocking on all the 9/11 MITRE folks in Western Virginia, out by the Western DC, out by the CIA headquarters. So that's what's coming. Is that the China dust? Is that the secret that Trump has and what they were going for in the raid? We don't know. We don't know.
You brought up China dust. You and I were on the radio on Friday.
Yes.
On Michael Parker's show, and then it was very hot that day, and I was having all kinds of computer problems. I don't know if you were having computer problems, but you disappeared at one point, and I finished the show without you. And a question that Michael Parker had for you is, what did you think the China dust was? Because we were talking about the article that was the article on the Duke Report that came out last week that 3 Italian surgeons found some metallic-like structures in people's blood after they had received the mRNA vaccines, and we were talking about tracking and tracing, being able to put something into the vaccines in order to be able to tell whether or not people had been vaccinated. Is that the China dust, or is that something else?
China dust, I cover that in this. That's the preamble to give you her mindset is, don't you understand? They just separated 9/11 planes from 9/11 bios, and they've just delayed the bios, and they keep delaying it every year. And it, instead of anthrax, it turned into corona. And that was the whole aspiring in Congress. They still were using the same phones. So that was the juice there. Part of that program was also a tag and trace nanotechnology. I said it was nanoferritin. Task Force said it was nanosilver. We can argue. Some people say it is gold backbone. You know, everybody has their favorite nanoparticle backbone, and they probably they do. They probably do.
I'm laughing because it's true. Yeah.
Some people are silicon dioxide people. Some people are graphene people. I mean, it's like
I love it.
Tastes great when it's filling. But we all can agree that this is how you track and trace. This is how you do warfare. This is how you find and fix. This is what Task Force Orange did at Fort Belvoir. So nobody's arguing about that nano is the way to go as far as your enemy can't see it. You need an electron microscope to see it. It accumulates in the tissues, especially the lungs around the heart where there's a lot of blood flow. And now somebody goes through a LATO scanner and we can say, bad guy. Right? So that's the juice. And that's what she said was in a program called Operation Blackjack.
Awesome.
And that's
I got to sign off here, guys, and get back to finishing Rock Island Virus. But I do want to plug She Wears No Yellow Badge, Sibel Edmonds' story, cleaned up and annotated, bibliographied, and indexed as well. So I hope people can support. Just $2.99. It's the lowest possible price I was allowed to set for the Kindle. So the paperback is also available.
Before you go, let me just tell you that cover is so beautiful. You did such and I really am leaning on Addy on this next book to clean up the back end of it, because I concentrated so much on this P-Tech front end that so forth that there was some stuff at the back end that needs to clean up. So I can't give it to you today, but I gave you a preview today. There you go.
Yes. So I'm off to finish that up tonight. So stay frosty, folks. We'll see everybody Tuesday, right?
Yeah,
Tuesday. Tuesday.
Okay.
5
Tuesday,
o'clock.
and Addie's going to jump off. But before George, before you go, I have people have been asking, how do you get the Duke Report matches? Okay, they have the little form inside where you can slip it to somebody in a bar, a restaurant, let them know if they're your confidential source how to get in touch with you. They're all right here. You can start fires with them too. You can start news fires with the Duke Report matches.
Speaking of news fires, is
Yes.
it possible to go to page 3 of that memo, because
Yes.
that will start a country blaze that you can't believe
All right, let's go
in
to
terms of news.
Let's go to page 3. There we go. Page 3. Here we go. Full screen. Get rid of the Duke Report matches. Oops, sorry. Put
They
them back
always
on.
wait to page 3 to give you the juice. You ever notice that?
Okay. Stop screen. Share. Here we go. We're so professional here. Here we go.
This is written by Elliot Richardson, by the way. So,
And Elliot Richardson is?
I think he was in the Department of Justice.
Okay. Okay. One of these private sector individuals is a businessman who served in the California cabinet of Governor Ronald Reagan, and who, immediately following the election of Ronald Reagan as president, bought several companies. How did people just buy companies? Bought several companies that provided contractual services to Custom Service Drug Interdiction Program. The other individual is the former research director of a California-based intelligence front organization set up immediately after President Reagan's election to provide clandestine logistical support for the Contras in Nicaragua. Wow. The former research director, who is currently in federal prison for drug trafficking, claims that California-based intelligence front organization was part of a network of secret Contra-supported organizations, including one in Mena, Arkansas. According to the former research director, both the governor's contracting office and the politically connected businessman were regular visitors to the California-based Contra Support Intelligence Front organization, which was also trafficking in stolen copies of INSLAW software and other contraband. Financing for this and other Contra-supported intelligence facilities came in part from the sale of cocaine brought into the United States from Latin America in the very aircraft that flew the weapons to the Contras, according to the source. The Contra Support Intelligence Facility in Mena, Arkansas, was the hub for drug smuggling activity. For the drug smuggling aspect of this covert intelligence operation. Why is smuggling drugs a covert intelligence operation? According to this source, the businessman with ties to the highest level of the Reagan administration, I think that probably means George H.W. Bush, allegedly facilitated the success of the drug smuggling operation by compromising the Customs Service's drug interdiction program, according to the same source. There's a lot of jiggery-pokery in that paragraph. It says Reagan, but I think that they forgot to say Bush. But
And I think Chip Tatum's in this somewhere, and a couple of other people. Barry Seal before he died and before he was murdered. There's a lot of sources here that have talked about this. Freeway Rick Ross has talked about George H.W. Bush quite a bit. Michael Rupert in L.A., like you said, talked a lot about this. Gary Webb had a lot. So here we go.
all right. Hubble's aides reportedly refused an official written request from the U.S. Customs Service supported by a detailed memorandum summarizing circumstantial evidence obtained in their investigation. The customs investigation reportedly encountered strong resistance among witnesses who were fearful of reprisals. No doubt. Customs, therefore, needed the authority and secrecy with a federal grand jury in order to compel cooperation. One of the companies that reportedly shipped war material to the Contras through the Mena, Arkansas Contra Support Facility was another Rose Law Firm client, POM Inc., for whom
That was Parkometer. Parkometer. Literally, they were supposedly sending parking meters down to the Contras.
Because parking meters are made out of metal. They're about 4.5 feet long. They weigh about 15 or 20 pounds. Yeah.
Parkometer. That's
parking
Parkometer.
meters. Yeah. They were SAW parking meters. Let me see. For whom Hubble performed legal services according to his financial disclosure report. Mrs. Hubble's family reportedly owns POM Inc. Very convenient. It's very convenient. There's the F again. Right.
Family, yep.
Family, yeah. According to the report on Foster's death by former independent counsel Robert Fisk, Hubble and Foster spent a considerable amount of time together in the final several days of Foster's life. Earlier in that final week, they were. My guess is they were negotiating. I'm just taking a wild flyer there. Earlier in that final week of Foster's life, INSLAW had submitted a report to Hubble that inter alia discussed several witnesses who would be willing, under certain circumstances, to come forward and give sworn testimony about the secret intelligence use of INSLAW software in the banking industry. None of the witnesses was willing, however, to authorize INSLAW to, let me see, there we go.
And just the background here is I do think INSLAW had an interface to SWIFT, which is usually bank-to-bank international transactions. And
Right.
International financial transactions, the last three letters. We worked on it at Burroughs before the merger. Not me, the guys at the government branch, but we had Blumenthal was our ex-CEO. He was the Secretary of Treasury under Carter. So this had a way. The important thing there is it doesn't hit the financial network that the FBI can see. The FinCEN network is for you and me sending money to each other. Oh, this $100,000 from Peter to George. That's a flag transaction. But this doesn't. Bank to bank. It's same as Bank of International Settlements. They don't flag $100 million transfers because those happen all the time. So it's a perfect network to be on if you're trying to launder drug money.
Okay, so if I understand this correctly, if you have copies of INSLAW software and INSLAW software is tied into the global financial system, you can use INSLAW software to put money in and take money out? Is that the big idea?
We had, I worked in the financial sector at Burroughs, and we had a interface for the SWIFT network. So
because I look at INSLAW and I think, oh, this is some kind of a law firm. It's the way that the description of it reads like it's Salesforce for lawyers.
Well, PROMIS originally was Prosecution Management Information System. So
Right.
if you wanted to go out to, let's say, the Arkansas State Penitentiary, and you wanted to say, hey, anybody here who wants to volunteer to go to Nicaragua and fight the Contras, you get out and we'll make that promise to you. But we got to keep track of your birthday and blah, 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 and how many boots you get and how weapons and so forth. So I have to have some kind of management information system. So it also managed parolees. That's my big point is, and that where they went big with this is when Bill Weld nationally at the DOJ said, hey, we got a lot more prisoners than just Arkansas prisoners. We got Massachusetts prisoners here, and we could go to every governor that's wants to make a little bit of money on the side and start recruiting out of all the state prisons. Then they got the idea, hey, let's get the federal prisons That's another great recruiting ground. Always people willing to go fight, right?
So they're using it like LinkedIn.
Yeah, yes, yes, yes. This is the whole idea, which is if you go and do your deal, and you just like the French Foreign Legion, which is really Nazis after World War II, but anyway, you get off. You get a suspended sentence, and the reason why I think Maxwell and Mossad thought this was great is, hey, I don't know who all the prisoners are who want to volunteer to go fight and overthrow a country in some country. If we could just put this in as a prosecution system in all of the countries that we want to overthrow, we'll be ready at the tip of a finger to be able to punch a list and say, hey, here's our mercenaries. We're ready to go.
Right, because recruiting, it's so basically it's the Kelly services of ne'er-do-wells.
Yeah, it's like Paul Whelan had a computer helper,
Sure.
a Kelly girl, And the thing is, once they're back, if they don't want to participate in the war, hey, that's okay. We have some viruses that we can test: air, water, food. We control your food. We control your water. We control the air you breathe, and we'll just farm antibodies and do monoclonal antibodies. And this is what Rahm Emanuel is accused of by task force in the Illinois state prison system. So it's a license literally to print money. You can make money so many different ways with these prisoners. That's why we looked at the Uyghurs, 1 million people behind wire in Western China, and said, you don't think the Chinese would do some testing for the people doing gain of function in the United States? We got people like why test on rabbits? We got too many people.
Right, that's why they call it human resources. You're a resource. Working at a place where you're a resource is a bad idea.
Exactly. Well, it's only one more page. The same law firm that wrote this is McCloy's law firm. Remember McCloy bringing in all the Nazis?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, John McCloy, Mr. Rockefeller. Hey, Mr. Rockefeller never met a Nazi scientist he didn't like. And John McCloy was his guy to bring him into the United States. Here we go.
So maybe we should see if anybody's got any questions. Is it true French Foreign Legion is comprised of gay dudes? Who knows? I don't know. Gay Nazis, according to what George
So, no. So I actually visited the spot where the French Foreign Legion gave up, or not gave up, but used for their landing field near Geneva. And supposedly that's where they surrendered to the Nazis before that. And that's why they didn't get massacred, because they were treated as prisoners at the end in the final days. That became the hotbed for the French Foreign Legion right in there. And it was a bunch of people who were a part of Vichy France who weren't really, de Gaulle type Frenchmen, go France. They were like businessmen in Montpellier and so forth. And they were like, hey, we can make some money here. We got a lot of smart Nazis coming through here. We own a port here. The Corsican drug trade's coming through here. We have enough money and capital here that we can maybe even get an Airbus developed here. And I went to Tarbes and the little Bavarian villages and stuff that you can't believe that are in the middle of southern France. So that's where French Foreign Legion. I covered the Cheveline mortars, which was a French Foreign Legion guy. The only thing French about the Foreign Legion is the chapeau and the flag.
The hat.
The hat. Everything else is mercenaries all the way. Mercenaries all the way.
We love to romanticize mercenaries, don't we? I was thinking about the stormtroopers in Star Wars, and they're all white, right? They're like the kinder, gentler, friendly stormtroopers, and they're kind of bumbling like the Keystone Cops or something like that. But like, now I think that the white stormtroopers are just the United States of America. Like that.
And they're clones. Did you know that? The stormtroopers are all clones?
Well, some, yes, many.
No.
Well, no, I think if you watched enough of them, and I try to avoid the last three, I think that what happens is that the clones, yes, they're all clones of. It was Clone Wars. You're right. Yes, they're clones. I don't know my Star Wars lore well enough.
I only did know that because I did a show on cloning, and somebody told me that. I thought, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I remember. Like, was it Boba Fett or something? They cloned Boba Fett, and all of the clones are actually all Boba. Boba Fett was the bounty hunter. I think maybe he was. I don't know. I don't remember it.
But cloning really does make sense here, because once you get a model for running drugs in one direction and guns in the other with the Mina airport, you can clone it for Epstein.
Right, but that goes back
Columbus.
to that goes back to the Flying Tigers. It goes back to the Opium Wars. It probably goes back before that. It probably goes back to the Phoenicians or Venice. It's probably a much older idea than any of us really even know.
But notice one thing, which you hit on a lot, is autonomy, because the Air Force splits away from the Army after World War II. Up until then, it was volunteer pilots that would go to China to fly in the Flying Tigers, right? Because planes haven't been around that long. I hear one going over your house right now. You're about ready to get hit. Oh, by the way, Parkometer actually made hollow panels that you could hide drugs in. That's what they were fabricating in the back shop. I actually went to Arkansas and found that out. I didn't go to Mina, though. But I'm just saying that they do, if you always look at it, they keep wanting to make these things autonomous. The Air Force becomes autonomous because they have all the caverns in St. Louis there. And that's where our guy, where Fort Scott is, where all of our blood is transshipped in and out. All of our nanoparticles are coming in and out of Fort Scott and that's why this book that I wrote is called Rock Island Virus. It's named after a Rock Island arsenal on the Mississippi, and this blood transfer point is where Task Force said the action was going to be at Fort Scott. U.S. Transcom, it's called, U.S. Transportation Command.
So Rock Island, there's also Rock Island Arsenal, which I believe is in the Philippines, isn't it?
Rock Island Arsenal is the book's title, is at the top of the Mississippi between it's Rock Island, Moline, Bettendorf, and what's the fourth one? The Quad Cities. And it was started there because the Union was very afraid of losing control of the Mississippi, and you could always float stuff down a river easier than going up a river. So they pre-positioned all the weapons in the Rock Island. Rock Island, Moline, Bettendorf, and
contact my account. About yeah. Maybe I'm confusing it with something else. I thought that Rock Island there was another Rock Island in the Philippines, but maybe I'm wrong.
Moline. I'm missing Moline, and I went
Moline, which is where the Blues Brothers are from.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's so. And you notice how the Blues Brothers they go to a place called the auto auction, the Mount Prospect Auto Auction. The Saipov and Saipov truckers, two of the trucking companies are in Mount Pleasant.
Is that where they got the cop car with cop lights, a cop motor, cop transmission, and cop brakes?
If you used to be able to go to Mount Pleasant and Mount Prospect. You used to be able to go to Mount Prospect and see the cop car that they use in the Mount Prospect Auto Auction. And where else do they go? Don't they go to a penitentiary at some point and play a concert?
Yes.
And where's that penitentiary? It's in Joliet, is it not?
Joliet, that's right. Joliet, yeah. Jake.
Yeah, and they're giving you the answer to the test here. Here's where, if we're going to test some viruses, we control everything in this environment: food, water, air, and we're your doctor. We're going to be doing the blood test. It's sick, but it is what actually happened in Arkansas. This did actually happen, and HIV tainted blood did go to Haiti. right? And if you want to create a worldwide epidemic, you can hope that people cough on each other after they leave the Olympics, right, in our military games in Wuhan. But if you supply the blood worldwide with the nanoparticle in it, this is what Task Force said was going to happen. Not, I'm still saying this happened at the NATO Wuhan games, but she said you would taint the blood supply in Rock Island at the Fort Scott there, because then everyone will test it and they'll go, worldwide epidemic. All you have to do is come up with, at some point, the test kit that tests for it, and then everyone simultaneously will go, it's in the blood. There it is.
And who came up with the test kits?
Matt Pottinger. Matt Pottinger. Seattle flu study. So if it is,
It's actually Paul Pottinger.
Paul Pottinger's the brother of Matt Pottinger.
Yes.
But this is what Trump is saying is, I didn't know it was a live exercise. It turned out to be China dust. It wasn't infectious. It was non-living, and it was all a big live exercise. And we did it in the blood. The Red Cross blood tests at the end of 2019 show positives, show that people were raising antibodies at the end of November and December for coronavirus, or something that looked like coronavirus, a nanoparticle that looked like.
And they did that by testing blood that was donated by healthy people.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct. So Task Force's thing was, it's going to be the blood. They're going to go after this blood, and then you could go all the way out to Armageddon, which blood was for tracking. But if there really was an insurrection in America, you could just hit every city with the bios, with the real thing, and then you would have your 600 million left after the Armageddon, a bio 911, 100 bio 911s. That was all in the panoply of her possibilities that she thought could happen. So that's what the book's about. She says she knew the JSOC guys, and I stepped through the book on all the checking I did on her stuff, and we ended up having a bio 911.
So this book is kind of like a wrap up of Task Force's hypotheses, theories. Yeah.
It's updated because some people say a bio 911 did happen. I put in there the air conditioning upgrade that did happen at the Wuhan Institute of Virology on 9/11 today. So 3 years ago. So a baby 911, a baby bio 911.
Well, I can't wait to read it, George.
Okay. It's only going to be about $1.99.
Well, he said $2.99 because it's the lowest price he could go. That's what Addy said. Before
he said that for the one. I think you're right. I think it's going to be $2.99.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating, really, because it takes you through how the national defense complex works, the strategy document gets sent to Congress, the JSOC intel input into that document. Everything is laid out. All the evidence is laid out of her thinking, and we still don't know the answer. Is it Trump's China dust? That's the question.
Indeed.
That's the question this book asks.
Well, it's 9/11, and I'm glad that there has been no terror attack today yet. There's still a few hours left, and so how do people? So look for the book. If you guys want to support this channel, there's ways to do that down there, right? You can go.
I get no money for this. Eddie gets everything.
Okay, there. If you're feeling so disposed, there are. Here we go. There are Duke Report deep cover matches. If you go to the buymeacoffee.com/the Duke Report, you can buy deep cover matches, and Carrie and I will ship those off to you. And other than that, when will I see you again, George? Tuesday, or
Tuesday.
And will you still be in Florida, or
Yep.
you don't know which way the wind is blowing yet?
I plan on coming back Thursday, Atlanta, if the DOJ is successful in their challenge and they throw out Judge Cannon's ruling on the special master, then it'll go to Atlanta on Thursday. So I'll be in Atlanta on Thursday.
And you need
And
to go to Atlanta for your CNN stuff anyway, right?
Yes, and Tuesday I'll probably be back home in Atlanta. So Tuesday's show will be in Atlanta,
All right, very good.
unless something big happens, and then I'll be here.
All right, very good, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.